today we've got, it's actually very rare. Maybe like 1 or 2 instances where I've gotten to interview people I grew up listening to, watching on TV. And today I'm actually very, very honored to have Sheila in the studio with me. And we just had from Nikki.
Yes, we
actually just had from Nikki.
Long before there was Beyonce and her alter ego.
Yes.
There were some of us who were rocking alter egos too.
Wow. You know, when you mentioned Beyonce, hers is Sasha Fierce. Yes.
Mine's Nikki.
Nikki.
Yeah.
Welcome to the studio. So who are we with today? Either or.
God.
We're going to keep switching.
She keeps swimming in, swimming out. These two women have coexisted for as long as I can remember, and they're good. They're good.
I love it. First and foremost, welcome to Trace FM. Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you.
We're honored to have you today. Of course, a day that we celebrate women. And, when they were giving me the list of people who we should have on the show, we're going to have some remarkable ladies, I have to say, all across the day. And then we're going to have Nviri, who's got something for the ladies as well. He's not a lady, but he's got something for the lady in the next hour. Now, let's start with that song. What year was that?
That was, I think, 1997 going into 1998.
1997.
Yeah, going into 97, 98. And it was like a joke. Sometimes I hear this song and I think to myself, wow, do you know what this song did for you?
Yes.
And what it meant, not just even for me, but for women across Kenya and Tanzania.
Wow.
It opened the doors for singers such as Ray C and Lady JD because they looked at this Kenyan woman singing songs on her own in an R&B style.
Yeah.
And why can't we do it? I mean, Ted Josiah can give you the biggest story of how that happened.
Yes.
But I was singing that song thinking, I just need to pay for my university fees because the health people have said, you've got 2 parents who are police officers, so we're not giving you any more money. And I was in my 3rd year going into my 4th year. And you think to yourself, what do I have in my hands that I can use to make a bit of money? And so I think, okay, I'm going to go to this guy because I used to go to these Hardstone concerts. And you're like, wow, music, this is it. I belong here.
Yes.
So I tell Hardstone's manager, I want to sing background vocals.
Yeah, BGV.
BGVs. I'll just be there in the corner, doo-wopping, shoo-boo, boo-boo, woo-hoo, just so that I can make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
But he says, there's something about your voice. Meet me in my office on the Monday and we'll go audition. So we go and audition. And I walk into the studio and there's Muthoni Bwika, and she was at Capital FM, remember?
Yes.
She's like the radio queen. Queen.
She really was.
Do not even look at her in the face. Like, look at her feet only. Do not look up. Then there was DJ Pinye, and
Pinye was there?
Yeah.
Wow. He just started there.
I mean, it's just people who you see in the industry and you're thinking, wow. So you go into the studio and I'm singing a song, and when you're auditioning, you're always working up to the best part of the song.
Yes.
And when I get to the best part, I'm like, Ted says, okay, I've heard enough, get out.
No.
Yeah.
Before you even continue with it, you've just mentioned the audition song. Do you remember what song it was?
Yes, I do. How do you
song?
Ever forget that?
Yeah, that's a very important one.
Brownstone, Half of You. I never wanted half of you.
Those are vocals.
I am telling you. And I was getting to that place of sharing you with jazz.
Shaking. Glasses are about to shatter and everything.
Then he just says, come out. What do you mean? I haven't got... And I said, I haven't got to the best part of the song. He said, you can sing it to yourself if you want, but come out. I've got other things to do.
Yeah.
So I think I've dropped it. And David walks me out and he says to me, Ted wants to work with you. And I said, I don't think so. It didn't end very well in there, And he says, it's because there's a project that's coming and he needs to know where you're going with your music. And I said, I'm happy to be a background vocalist. And he said, okay, what else do you want to do? And I said, I want to sing in commercials because I used to do it as a child with my brother. And so Ted calls me back in and he says, all right, David says you want to do this music thing. There's a song that I've put together. It's already been done. It's got a male voice on it, Jimmy Gathu, but I want to hear it with your voice.
Wow.
So I'm going to give you the song. I want you to listen to it. And then on Sunday in the afternoon, I want you to also record a commercial. So you're going to do two things. You're going to record a song and you're going to record a commercial. And I recorded the commercial first, and it was for Superloaf. So I remember it.
Wow.
So I was happier about Superloaf because I was thinking that was almost 20 grand. 1997, 98, 20
that's
grand.
$1 million.
You've paid your tuition.
Eish.
I'm over there thinking I'm not going home. And so then this song we recorded, and it sounds great. And he says, I'm putting it in a compilation called Kenyan, the First Chapter. There was Kala Mashaka in there. There was Heartstone. There was Shades of Black. And I don't think we all understood what this thing was going to do for Kenyan music. It became, it just opened up the Kenyan sound. You know, people always have conversations about what is the Kenyan sound. That is a conversation that will happen until the end of time. At the end of the day, music is expression. It takes whichever genre of music, and the artist who feels this is how best I can tell my Kenyan story through this sound. So I always think, stop coming back to what is the Kenyan sound.
Yes.
Listen to this person who's the artist. Are they representing this heart, this spirit, this mind of this Kenyan in today's time?
I love the fact that you mentioned that. I was actually part of a what do you call it, a Twitter space that you were on last week, right? And I remember I was literally in the background. I actually stumbled upon it, and I was like, okay, cool, this is like guys in the industry, Stingo and all of them. You should have said
something.
I was just like, at times I just like to sit back and just listen, right? And I'm glad that you've gotten to that. Now I want to take it back to equality, especially it being International Women's Day.
Yeah.
And back then at the start, right? You posted up a TBT, and you were with Kala Mashaka.
Yeah.
Right? You said Mamba Village, I think Mombasa. That was the place to be back when.
Oh my gosh.
So like what, and you've mentioned some greats, the Teds, Jimmy Gathu, all of these guys helping you get into the industry as a lady. But was there a bit of friction getting in back when for ladies, maybe not for you? And what was it like when you look at back then and right now in terms of equality in the industry?
Right. I will say, because there were so few women who were venturing out to this field, and like I said, we all didn't know what we were doing. We were in the moment, singing songs, being in the moment, being right there and truly expressing yourself in your own way. Yes, people would say, but your style sounds like R&B, and I'd say, and why not? But the lyrics express myself, express my Kenyan story. So even if it's R&B, even if it's a rapper who's going to be on that song, this is what the sound of the world is. We are expressing ourselves differently. Looking at equality, of course, it's always harder for women. It's always... You work harder. It's inevitable. I don't know why it is so, but it is so. So when you set out to get into any industry, you don't walk in there thinking roses and champagne and rainbows. You are going to have to earn your place, and chances are you're going to have to really put your foot down harder on more occasions than a man will. When we would go touring, for instance, Mamba Village, like you've mentioned, I wasn't the big act. I was the opener. So you come in, because I had Johnny on my song. So it made sense that I have to go first. So then he'll come in. And then now from when I finish, then the boys come in. And then it's ooh la la, ooh la la. And it wasn't, the guys were always very protective of me and all the ladies in the stable. That was one thing I will always say thank you to everybody in that space. It was safe, it was secure, and you could express yourself. The media industry too, at that time, was generous in that, oh my gosh, this is a Kenyan artist. They play their music, they play interviews, they host them. That pay for play thing that I've heard people talk about, it didn't happen then. It didn't happen then. When it came up, it just soured the waters of Kenyan music, and I'm sure it stalled the careers of potentially amazing singers who could have gone even further had they been given these opportunities to just have their voices heard, but they couldn't get that. The worst thing that now began to pop up with more women coming into the music space was suddenly it was you against this woman. It was you versus this person. In music, it's you versus yourself. It's you versus your artistry. that is how I've grown. I mean, I grew up with a mom and dad who were both musicians, and they were never comparing themselves with who else is in the market. It was last week when you played this, there was a flat C, there was a flat here. Come on now, you know you can do better. And so I've always known it's not about I'm going to be better than her, and I'm going to be better than her, and I'm going to be... Your work makes you better, period.
Yes.
And it got to a place where people are being fed things and I think that still continues today, where you're thinking you're in this camp or you're in this camp. You can like them both. They're not Christian Louboutin shoes where you've got to choose one. You can like them both. You can like them all. When you find women who represent different, because as women we've got different seasons and we've got different phases that we go through, even on a monthly. You don't need me to elaborate more on that. And if you're soft and gentle in the morning and then you're a warrior in the afternoon, those are different phases of you, and there are different singers who'll sit in to those different phases and seasons and make you feel good. So there's no one artist that you're supposed to say, I like her, I don't like anybody else. I mean, even in your playlist, you don't just play one person.
You really don't. Now, if you're just locking in, we've got the legend herself, man. It's all about International Women's Day, and we've got Sheila Mwanyigha. Did I pronounce it correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank God.
Thank you. Don't think it too much. Don't overthink it.
I'm very meticulous when it comes to pronounce. Now, like I said, in that space that we had last week, right?
Yeah.
Listening to you and you were talking, I don't know, this wasn't you. It was a particular lady, I can't quite remember who it was, and was talking about how back when... you know, they were trying to get into the industry, and sometimes their song would be delayed and kept because this person wanted a certain favor from this and all of that. It's been very male dominated, right?
Yes.
But I'm proud to say that that has changed, right? In so many ways, and we can even do better, and we can continue doing it. We have to, right? But you as someone who's been very well-rounded in the industry, how can we make it even better, especially for ladies in terms of achieving equality?
In achieving that, I would say for women going into whatever industry, do your homework first.
Yeah.
The creative space especially is even harder because you're a creative. You've not been programmed to think spreadsheets, to think when we're balancing things, if you invest X amount here, how you're going to get your money back here, because you're thinking, this is a great song, everybody's going to love it. But yeah, they may all love it, but how are you going to get your money off of it?
Yep.
And as women, it's so easy to fall into the trap of nearest and dearest. So you trust somebody else to handle things for you that you should be looking out for yourself. If you sing in a studio and you have paid somebody for something and cannot tell me how you're going to get that money back, then you shouldn't make that project.
Nearest
and dearest. And when I say nearest and dearest, I mean, look at these famous examples. Britney, Beyonce, Whitney. Their fathers, nearest and dearest. So you're thinking, I'm going to sing and we're going to do this and my dad's going to take care of this and it's going to be great. Yay!
Wow.
That's what happened to these three women.
Yeah. So
as a woman, your nearest and dearest are there for a reason, to be your nearest and dearest. They're not your accountant. They're not your manager either.
Yes.
They can be your advisors. Yes. But for any industry, even yourself, going into whatever field you choose to go into, you understood, when I finish this study, when I finish here, this is the job I'm going to find and it's going to pay me money. You didn't just do it because, yay, it feels nice to be in this classroom. Oh, it feels nice.
Yeah.
It's going somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with your music. When we started, like I said, we didn't know what we were doing. I was very clear that I wanted that music to pay my university. And it did. I graduated really, really well. But did I think about what would happen next with that music? It was just a beautiful surprise, and it opened up so many opportunities and doors because I just happened to be in the right place at the right time with the right environment and the right culture that just, and I'll always be grateful.
And you actually, took it and progressed. Now, there's a ran, that's the word.
Yeah.
Now, there's a conversation that happens ever so often, right? And I've seen the likes of Pierre McKenna, Avril talk about it, and it's a conversation about compensation, like, even in terms of influences and what, right? So, fair compensation. This is a conversation that even in sports worldwide is being hard. Why is it that ladies in the WNBA are not being paid as much as the NBA and all of that? Tennis as well. And so in terms of the industry and, you're in so many different facets, right? How should we go about this conversation? There's like rules that have been set in the Constitution, for instance, the 2/3 majority, right? Mm-hmm. It's there, but we've never achieved it. It's never been, You get, like, we keep going and saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Unfair compensation. Mm-hmm. What is the outright thing that we just need to do to stop this whole hula baloo? Elections are coming up. We're going to make sure that we have this and that in our party. Get, what should we do?
It starts, of course, again, we live in the patriarchal society, and we can't voyer laws either. Laws are there for a reason. We have to obey them, and we have to abide by them. Constitutionally, the law on gender representation, it's been abused before, which sets the screen for it, which sets the stage for it to be abused again and again and again. It has to get to somebody who will say, no, you guys, we are a community that abides by the law. We observe certain things because it is the right thing to do. Yeah. But sometimes just because something is the right thing to do doesn't mean that as women we sit back and say, we'll wait for that person to put their foot down and then things will change and it will get better. Yeah. And we've got positions where we've got nominated women. And I always go back to the drawing board and I say, these women who've been nominated, what exactly have they done? What do they bring to the table? As a woman, what can I say about my life has changed because of somebody who was nominated? Mm-hmm. I believe in representation, women can represent nations. They can represent counties. They can represent Kenyans on different capacities, but they've got to be women who are ready for these things. You're not just nominated. You're not a flower girl to be go and represent us here. I admire especially women from the Moi era who stood up in elections, went to the ground, told people, this is who I am, this is what I can do for you. And they got the tickets and they got in based on votes. Because ultimately, your work becomes even harder as a woman. When you go in there to tell another man, Sasa tutafanya hivi, we're voting for this. And the man says, and who voted for you? And that is a very legit question.
True. It gets thrown out a lot, yeah.
Exactly. Unaongea hapa, nani alikuleta huku? So suddenly it stops being about the people that you're representing. It's who nominated you. Yeah. So that takes away and strips away from whatever good that you think you could be doing. So I'm not the person who'll give you the right and clear blueprint of what the future is towards sorting out that particular problem that we as Kenyans have to address as a nation. But all I can say is to women, you as a woman, don't walk into an institution irregardless of what that institution is and expect that somebody is going to say, I'll take you under my wing and I will protect you and I will be your your godfather to make things happen for you. You get in there knowing you either have the talent to do it, because if you can't do it, don't show up for it. Get in there because you can. You will be consistent, you will work hard, you will dedicate yourself, and you will not compromise yourself. Because the day you compromise yourself, there's no way you go back to tell your godfather, Sasa, those things you
I'm glad that you started this point by talking about how patriarchal society is, which, it is wild over, right? Yeah. But it's slowly, at least women are doing something. But in that whole conversation about equality, there's the male factor, right? And men have a very important role to play, in terms of, say, for instance, in an organization, when we talk about equality, the boss has to be like, okay, cool, there's this, there's that, right? But what is it that you feel that, especially boys who, are transitioning into being men and what have you, that we actually have to, tell them and teach them?
For boys, it's just saying it's a different era. And I think it's letting them know you have your place as a boy, as a man. Nobody's going to take that away from you. Being a man is being a man. You will always, your place is your place. But when you come into the workplace and you meet women are not there as your property, as your playground, as your practice zones. Because In the workplace, I've worked in different institutions, and I've seen people's careers grow or flounder because of relationships. You know, those murky conversations that people are not ready to have yet, and today is definitely not the day to unpack those. But it's simply to say to men, you don't want to be that kind of man. You want to be the kind of man that a woman one day will wake up and say, if it were not for this man and the doors that he opened, and he opened those doors, why? Because you were tenacious, because you were talented, because you had the gift, because you were ready to put in the time, and he saw the potential that you have.
Yeah.
If as a man you're not opening doors for women, then you're closing doors for women. You're making things harder.
Yeah.
And so for boys, it's to say your career is not going to be overshadowed or done away with just because you put your foot down and you slam the door shut for a woman.
Yeah.
In fact, you never know where this woman was going to end up and where you were going to go based on where she was going to go to next.
Yeah.
The world is a very crazy place to be, because the door I shut for you, Calvin, is the door somebody else will shut, and then I'll see you there and you'll be like, hey, remember me? How's it going now?
It's different.
You cannot, and you must not be the person who stands in the way of progress.
I agree.
You must not.
Especially, man, you know what I love about it is the Gen Zs right now, they don't really care about all of that. They'll be like, boss, stop a mbele, eh? We'll see who's saying it. Now, before we wind up, right? You know, like for me, I've listened to your music, I've listened to your radio shows, and most recently, as I was saying, we happened to be on a live together. And some of the examples that the various ladies and the men were sharing is, you know, how the industry has progressed, right? What are some of the things that you look at and over time are like, man, back when it was a bit bad, right? Like in terms of gender equality, inclusivity, but right now they've changed quite a bit. And you know, you're so proud to have kind of started it.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm so glad that being a musician is, especially for young girls, is no longer something that parents would weep and cry. Because I remember when I went for my first performance, my parents came and it was at Splash. And I couldn't remember the second verse of the song, so I had to sing the first verse again. But, you know, they came and supported me because they were musicians, so they knew.
Yeah.
But for any other parent at that time, your child comes and tells you, oh, by the way, I'm going to sing. You would take that child far away to another place. But now singing is not, it is a viable option. It
really
is a potential career path that can open the doors to so much.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that times have changed for the better, making music a proper career choice. And when I say music now, it's not just I'm going to be the singer. You can be the percussionist, you can be an instrumentalist, you can be a manager. You can take your business training and say, I'm going to be a female manager. I'm going to be a manager who makes things happen.
Yeah.
Not just for women, but for men too, for artists, because artists as creatives, managing their careers is something else altogether.
It's a whole thing.
Oh, a fantastic
business.
That one.
Yeah.
There's so many other different facets of the industry that have now opened up. Social media. Back then we didn't have it. And as an artist, it helps you take fuller control of your messaging, of your image, of how you create that space to interact and engage with your followers. We didn't have things like that then.
Wow. If you had Twitter then,
oh my Lord, I'd have like 3 Grammys. Of that I am so sure.
Twitter, TikTok, everything.
But now it's just saying, if a station tells you, oh, I'm not going to play because you have to pay, or some manager says, oh, you have to put out so that I can, I'll be like, really? Hold up. You will come looking for me.
It's crazy.
Tweet something, put something out somewhere, and you'd be surprised. I'll tell you this. I sometimes look at my Twitter account and I say it's like a little valve to offload certain things and, you know, tweet things that I think I want to share with everyone. I keep a lot of my life private.
Yeah.
But last week I had the biggest shock of my life because I said, let me see, where do these tweets go? How many people are checking this out? And it was close to 1 million. And I thought, but I don't even say that much.
Wow.
Who are all these people seeing these things? And I'm like, okay, you know, you really need to start saying more important things. And I thought, yeah. It's about to happen.
It's a conversation that a lot of us have, right? You're like, oh man, I shouldn't have tweeted that.
No, I don't have I shouldn't have moments. And I guess that's why I tweet very little.
For me, not to throw myself into this conversation, it's all about you. It's at times you go into a meeting and they're like, I follow you on Twitter, and you're like,
you shouldn't have been there yesterday.
Not the context, not the context. Now, we're about to wrap up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is what's your final point in terms of like where we are in terms of, gender equality to the young ladies who are listening, even to like my mom who's listening? What's your part in short to all of them? Because, you're not just Sheila or Nikki. This is, like you just said, a lot of people are always watching what you have to say.
Right.
You're a role model to so many of these ladies out here. And, you've been a part of, I believe you've inspired so many women to be who they are today. Like, what would you tell them?
Well, the digital spaces, I think because today's trend also has a lot to do with digital and equity and inclusivity.
Yeah.
It's just simply saying, in as much as things have changed for the better and there are more outlets for you to represent yourself and stand up for yourself and the things that you believe in, it's also a space where a lot of online bullying happens. There's a lot of disinformation, misinformation, and if it can happen over things like wars and elections, you mean it's not going to happen to a person? It will happen to a person, and especially a woman.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. I mean, if you look at most of the viral videos, the things that trend the most would probably be a woman at the center of the storm. Whether you know the full story, whether you don't know the full story, it always centers down to Leo, violence, press the button. And people look at it as comedy, but these are people's lives. These are people's reputations. Building up from that, my heart goes out to people who've been the subject of online bullying. I know I have. And the thing that I still don't understand how this happened is the person who was behind a lot of my cyberbullying went on to become an MCA. And I'm thinking, Kenya,
Yes.
Kenyans, can we meet outside, please? Let's have
tough.
a conversation.
Wow.
But that is the kind of society that we're living in. And I'd like to say to women that when you present yourself in whatever space, and it's going to be a journey of growth for you in your career as a human being. Some of you are going to end up online, you'll choose to be a musician, or you'll be a doctor, or you'll be an MP, at whatever level.
Yeah.
Because now to trend, anybody can trend. It's not just an exclusive for certain
no
people.
club.
No. And there's no membership fee you're paying either.
No vetting.
No vetting, no interviews, nothing. So in whatever industry you present yourself in, it's your body of work that will speak for you. And there'll be people who don't see where you're going. Or understand where you come from.
You don't have to show them this is where I'm going.
No, yours is not to explain.
Yeah.
Yours is just to do it.
Sure.
And it takes me back to when we started singing. You don't need to know 5 steps down the road what the singing is going to do. The first step is it's going to pay your fees. Sing it.
100%.
So work, build it. Be you, stay strong, build a supportive network around you, tap into women who've been there before so that you have safe spaces where you can talk about what it is that you're going through. And then for men as well, don't be that gatekeeper who's looking for something to get something, to do something. Be that man who's opening the door because it is your job. This could be your daughter. And most men who gatekeep sometimes, I wonder, do they have families? They expect what to happen to their children in their respective workspaces when they grow. So open that door like you're opening it for your small sister. And as a woman, a man opens a door for you. Don't go there thinking I have to pay him back. No. The reason that door is open is because there's potential for you to make something of your life. Prove him right. Thank him by being the best, the smartest, and the most amazing creature that ever lived.
There you go.
Yeah, it can be done.
It can be done. I love it. Thank you very much, Sheila, for coming through to the show this morning. It's all about International Women's Day. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time showing up and, of course, giving such very, very affirming words. Yeah. I love
Thank
it.
you. Happy International Women's Day to all women.
Yeah. I was
You're
about to say to you too. I can say that, right?
Yes, you
yeah,
can.
Yeah, I can. All right, we're about to roll out with a song by Nikki. We've got Nikki in studio right now.
What are we playing now?
Niwewe?
Niwe wako milele.
There you go. All right, let's roll out with this one right here on Fast with the Hits, Trace FM.